not lost on me. And one of those things, if you would ask me what I appreciate most about having a couple extra bucks, is that I don't have to deal with broken down cars, because that's a goddamn nightmare, and I hate it, and I feel bad for you. It reminds me of when you were telling me about it, and I was getting ready to give you a bad time on the podcast about it today. It's one of those cars, and cars breaking down are one of those things that when you are poor and you come from where I come from, if you ask me what is the difference between, like, having money or resources or assets or things that newer cars so they don't break down, things like that, I never take for granted that my cars always start. In fact, I think about it all the time. I mean, I haven't had a car not start. I should say, unless it's a custom car and I took it to the show and the alternator slipped or the starter fell out or what, a brand new car or something that we just built or rebuilt or whatever it is. You always have older cars, 60s cars from the 60s and 70s. But I'm talking about newer cars, things I drive to work every day. The car starts, and then if the car doesn't start for whatever reason, the battery's dead, I just go get another car and then jump the battery. So if you were to ask me the difference between having nothing and having something, the thing that I remember or that I appreciate the most, and so a little bit, I got to give you trouble, but vicariously through you, I'm living and remembering and appreciating the things that I have, because cars were, I had, at least you had the wherewithal to tow it.
Yeah.
In my day, it would have been find a buddy that would let you tie to his rear end, right? With a tow rope if you had one, or a rope in general, and then try not to rear end him on the way home. And as he brings you home, you're pulling it up, with two wheels on the curb so you can get underneath of it, because there's nowhere to work on it. And you got to have two wheels on the curve so you can get underneath it. And then underneath it, you go with a flashlight and with whatever tools you have, and you go to work on it. So these kind of stories make me appreciate what I have. And the reality is that you have a lot, because you have resources that you're able to, for instance, get it towed. You have your dad and your parents, so that's always helpful. You know how to do the work. It's a pain in the ass. Of course, it's stripped out. If it wasn't stripped out, you'd be back in business in 30 or 45 minutes. And, I don't know what the alternator cost you, a couple $100 probably.
Yeah, the alternator was $160. The tow was $160. So,
yeah, so you're, $400 into it, $350 into it. And it just, while I give you trouble about it, I feel bad that it happened. It's a complete pain in the ass. But it does remind me. It reminds me of being poor. It reminds me of what I hated most about not having money, was driving cars that broke down constantly, and you're always having to deal. I had a hood come up on a pickup truck I had because the whole front end was gone, and so I had drilled and bolted the front end, the hood down from the front end. Well, I didn't bolt it well enough, right? And literally the wind got underneath of it on 205. Whack, up it came. Broke the windshield. I couldn't see anything. We're going 75 mile an hour. Then you're like, pull it over, right? Park it on the side of the road. And now you're walking, because there's no cell phones. And so wherever you are, you're walking. And so you got to walk to wherever and make a phone call and hope somebody's at home. It's just it's so much easier today. And I so appreciate how much easier it is today. And again, I guess on a bigger picture or a bigger point, we talk about this all the time. None of us appreciate how much easier it is. But think about if what happened to you today happened to me when I was your age.
Yeah.
I would literally have, if I'm Heather, I would have had to find a phone somewhere. I would have had to call somebody. I would have been able to hopefully get through to whoever, right? Because you're not always answering the phone on your desk. And then that person has to come and get you. And it's just the amount of work that went into it. So I appreciate hearing that story of what you're doing, simply because it reminds me how much I appreciate my cars and that I don't have to deal. It's one of the best parts of having a couple extra dollars is not having to deal with cars breaking down.
Yeah, and I'd say the flexibility of being able to have an extra car is so helpful, especially if your cars are breaking down or if you're working on cars a lot. Because just being able to leave that car in the garage overnight while you take something else to work, that it's so much easier. Or having an extra car to run to the shop to go get more parts or to go get something tested. If you don't have that extra car, it makes things so much more difficult.
Yeah, and it's the little things in life too. When you talk about even being successful enough to have multiple cars, right? I mean, it's such a resource to not have when you only have that one car. And so many people don't have enough money. And I know there's people listening to us that don't have enough money. You try to buy as new a car as you can with while still having it be able to run, right? They always tell you don't buy a new car. And if you don't have money, to just kind of throw away, I agree with that. There's no reason to buy a new car. It makes sense. But
It's
at
a
the same time,
depreciating asset.
yeah, without a doubt, you might as well buy it depreciated already. Having said that, though, for me, when I was young, a car was $500, right? Because that's all you could afford. Or your buddy would, give you the $300 car or the $1,000 car because that's all you could. Or you took out a loan like I did at 19% interest because you got no credit, and you're driving a complete POS that does nothing but break down. That's tough. That really is tough. I get it. I appreciate that, and I'm sympathetic to that because that happened to me. I lived that. So I guess one of the inspirations for people to get off of or to get out of where they are, maybe get off the couch and go throw in some extra work and try to get somewhere it is a huge benefit to own that other automobile, to your point, Billy, and know that you can count on it, or just to own one that you know that you can count on. I mean, any car any car that's 10 or 15 years old anymore, right? I mean, you're starting to get 25, 30 years out. Yep. But, I mean, really, any car made in the 2000s, chances are that thing's going for 200,000 miles.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I think that that it's a different world from the technology perspective also, but not lost on me. And one of those things, if you would ask me what I appreciate most about having a couple extra bucks, is that I don't have to deal with broken down cars, because that's a goddamn nightmare, and I hate it, and I feel bad for you, which is why I take so much pleasure in giving you a bad time.